5-game road trip ends in defeat. Still, the Knicks 3-2 on this road trip, and they are still 6-2 in their last 8. We knew this was going to be a tough game. Third game for the Knicks in the last 4 nights, and Minnesota under the radar at this point, I think, but very good.
Yeah, it's a really good team, really well-built roster, and they play hard. And, this was a really physical game. Like I mentioned in the pregame, you and I did the preseason game. We got to call that game when Minnesota came to New York, and that was a physical, chippy game. And this was very similar to that. And for the first half, with the Knicks not making the threes for the first time in 8 games. They went through 8 games where they shot 40% from 3. And that's a big part of what they do now. When you have a team like Minnesota, all the length that they have, and they take the paint away, you better hit your threes. This was that game, 3rd and 4 nights, end of a road trip, make all the excuses you want. The 3 was not dropping for the Knicks tonight for the first time in 9 games. And that resulted in the Knicks not really having much offense against a team like this, that at home, they're excellent. And in that third quarter, what do Stars do? Time to put the throttle down and put this game away. Anthony Edwards had a quiet first half, lit it up in the third quarter, and it was lights out for the Knicks.
Alan, the Knicks from 3, 9 of 38, 24%,
yeah.
As you mentioned, way off of what they've been doing all year, coming into this game averaging 38% shooting from downtown. That third quarter was the whole ball game as the Knicks were outscored in the third quarter, 35-19. And Anthony Edwards was dominant.
Yeah, he came right out. The first play of the half, it was almost as if they said, okay, you had too quiet, go after it, get it going, and he did. Karl-Anthony Towns really becoming more of a supporting cast player, but he still makes some big shots at times, but it was really Edwards' show. It was Ant-Man, and it was time for him to take over and be dominant. And then once he got it going, it just seemed everything else unlocked offensively as they had a huge third quarter. You see right there the 35-19 score. So not only were they getting anything they wanted, they also hit 5 of 8 from downtown as part of it. Gobert woke up because I think Mitchell Robinson was dominating him. So it was 2 players. It was Anthony Edwards seeing, I only have 4 points. Like what is, I got to get more aggressive. And Rudy Gobert probably looked at the box score at halftime and said, Mitchell Robinson is kicking my butt. Like I need to get on the boards and do a better job, because Mitchell Robinson was the reason why the Knicks had a 2-point game with all the extra possessions that he was getting them and also the stops. So Gobert woke up, Anthony Edwards woke up, and the Knicks really could never get their offense to wake up and keep up in this game. And it went from what was a close grinder to it felt like a blowout for the rest of that second half.
Talking about Mitchell Robinson, 10 points, 11 more rebounds, and of those 11 rebounds, 7
the best
more
in the game
on the offensive
best
glass.
In the game. Also had 2 blocks and 2 steals. So he did a lot. Historically, Mitchell Robinson has not had great games against Gobert in his career. This is the first time it looked like he matched up with him and he was ready for it, because he really did push the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. It was great to see. Once again, the shots the Knicks were getting in their offense were good looks. They weren't hitting them. The bench, we talked about DiVincenzo, had a great 2 games as a starter. And what he did in knocking down 3, 7 of them against Charlotte on Saturday, he struggled from 3 at 1 for 6. Emmanuel Quickley at 1 for 7. Your bench did not really give you a lot, because the bench shooting from downtown was a struggle at 2 for 16. So not a lot of production from your bench in this game either.
All right, Monica McNutt helped call the game tonight on the MSG Radio Network. She joins us from Minnesota. Monica, what's happening? You ready to come home or what?
I am ready to come home, Pito. Thank you. Thank you for leading off with that question. Just on tonight, and I think we've said this before, guys, it reminds me of the matchup versus New Orleans Pelicans. Now, granted, that game was the second of a back-to-back. Schedule does you no favors, but I'm watching this game in the third quarter into the fourth quarter, and I'm struck by the size that the T-Wolves have. Listen, that's a team that is going to compete this year for some real positioning in the Western Conference. They are terrific. And if you go down that starting lineup, right, Mike Conley, 6'1", Anthony Edwards, 6'4", Rudy Gobert, 7'1", Jaden McDaniels, who got injured, but 6'9", and then, of course, you got Karl-Anthony Towns at 7'0 as well. So, to me, the bigger question than harping on this particular game is what is going to be the Knicks formula when they run into a team that has length like that and athletes, because they are one of a handful in this league that pose some real problems.
Monica, that's absolutely where I was going to go with you. But first, I want to ask you if you were wearing purple because you're in Minneapolis and you figure it's Prince Am I on that vibe? Am I right? Or was
You
that
got
just
it.
lucky?
You got it, hon.
Okay.
I
Love
packed
it.
my purple for the good prince.
Perfect. Okay. Aside from that, when we talk about the length, because the other loss they had in this road trip was against Boston, and that presents the same issues. Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, they take the paint away. You better hit your threes against them because you're not going to get a lot done inside. And it does seem like, especially like early on, Julius Randle, a lot of hesitation going into the paint because they throw so much length at you. And it's almost like, how do the Knicks figure out how to counter that? Because there's going to be other teams they're going to face this season that have that kind of length.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, I think one thing that the T-Wolves did enough times for me to notice over the course of the night is they send that second. And I think we see that often against Julius Randle where guys are anticipating him spinning back to his right. But there's a couple of times tonight they sent that second to Jalen Brunson as well. And so to me, there has to be an understanding of how quickly the ball has to move. For as stout as any defender may be, very rarely are they faster than the ball moving. And so I just think tonight, the length of the T-Wolves, even in opportunities where we saw guys look for Mitch in the dump down right in the paint, it was just too much. Hold on. There just was not enough space. There were too many bodies, and so it was not effective. But I'm with you. Like, the teams in the league that have this type of length, they can be beaten, but you got to figure out the formula that works for what the Knicks can put out on the floor.
Well, it would have helped, guys, and we've talked about this, Monica. The Knicks only 9 of 38 from downtown.
Yeah.
If you're not going to get inside, you got to hit the three, which the Knicks have been doing pretty much all year, but they didn't tonight.
Yes, Pito, 100%, right? If they shoot 44% from three in this particular ball game, what is the story of this game as opposed to them shooting less than 25% tonight? However, I do sometimes question if you give too much respect based on reputation. There was a stretch in the fourth. There was a stretch in the fourth where Dante DiVincenzo got into the paint twice. Julius Randle got into the paint once. And then Dante goes again, I believe, and actually does get blocked. But the other 3 out of 4 possessions, the Knicks actually ended up getting fouled. Now, granted, there was a stretch and at the same time that Rudy Gobert was not on the floor. But I do wonder, just because a team has length or has shot blockers, go and see what happens a few times and at least let the referees know that you are not hiding from these shot blockers and you have the same right to the spot as they do if all of these blocks are not 100% clean. So, yes, of course you want to shoot the lights out so you don't even have to do it, but I do think there were some opportunities for the Knicks just to go into the paint and see what happens.
Monica, have a great trip home and enjoy your Thanksgiving.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Monica not there in Minnesota. Jalen Brunson, even in defeat, another solid game. He's the Eastern Conference Player of the Week coming into this game, and 25 more tonight.
Yeah, and set the tone again early. As we talked about, he is one of the top scorers in the NBA in the first quarter so far this season. He had 11 points to start off this game, and another good rhythm for him. And, the injury to McDaniels was a tough one for Minnesota because the original plan was to have him with all his length guard Brunson, and then he hurt his ankle, came out. They had to send different people at him, and eventually they had to send everybody at him because even when he's guarded, like you see right here, he can still make those tough shots, knock down a couple of threes. Still gets to 25 points in this game. You see the efficient shooting at 7 of 15 and then 3 of 6 from downtown. I mean, look at him at 8 for 8 from the free throw line as well. And also 6 assists, which if you watch the game back, there was probably a lot of empty assists, meaning passes to open men that the shots were missed because he was spraying it around once they did focus on him. But here's Brunson continuing to make that all-star case. The Knicks had a struggle with shooting the basketball tonight, but he was still one Knick that could shoot the basketball. He was still been hot the last couple of games.
And Brunson's 14 in the first half had a lot to do with the Knicks hanging in there in the first 2 quarters. But as it is, they lose by 17.